The halls of Northwood High pulsed with a nervous energy, a rhythm of hurried footsteps and anxious whispers. Here, the pressure wasn't just about grades or exams. For many, it was the crushing weight of tuition fees, a dark cloud that loomed over their brightest ambitions. You could see it in their faces in the cafeteria line, in the library's quiet corners. Young minds full of potential were grappling with a very adult problem. How can I afford to stay? What if my parents can't manage this semester? Among them was Liam, a brilliant artist whose scholarship application had just been denied. His paint-stained hands trembled slightly as he stared at the rejection letter on his phone. Nearby, Chloe, a gifted musician, confided in her friend, her voice barely a whisper, that she might have to take a year off to work. The dream of joining the city orchestra felt a million miles away. And watching all of this, often from the periphery, was Murda Harrison. To most students, he was just a school janitor, a quiet, almost invisible figure with a kind, weathered face and a slight stoop in his shoulders. He'd sweep the floors, clean the windows, and empty the trash, always with a gentle nod and a soft-spoken hello. But what the students didn't see was the profound empathy in his eyes as he observed their struggles. He heard the hushed, worried conversations. He saw the flicker of hope dimming in their eyes. He understood their silent battles because he had fought his own. The atmosphere of stress hung heavy in the air for weeks. Then, one Tuesday morning, everything changed. Liam was called to the principal's office, his heart sinking with dread. He expected bad news, perhaps a final notice. Instead, the principal handed him an envelope. Inside was a letter. An anonymous donor had established a scholarship, specifically for a student of the arts. The full tuition for his final year was covered. Liam stood there, stunned into silence, the letter shaking in his hand. News of the Northwood Angel spread like wildfire. Who was this mysterious benefactor? Whispers and theories echoed through the hallways. Was it a wealthy alumnus? A local business owner? The school was buzzing with a mix of joy for Liam and an intense curiosity that bordered on obsession. The mystery had cast a spell over everyone, a glimmer of magic in a world that often felt harsh. Among the most curious was Sarah, a driven student with a knack for journalism and an unshakable sense of justice. She wasn't struggling with tuition herself, but the plight of her friends had ignited a fire in her. She believed this anonymous hero deserved recognition, and she was determined to uncover their identity. Her investigation began immediately. Armed with a notepad and a relentless spirit, Sarah started her quest for the truth. Her first stop was the administration office. She politely questioned the principal and the financial aid officer. They were as baffled as everyone else. The donation had come through a third-party charity, completely untraceable, with strict instructions for the donor to remain anonymous. Next, Sarah talked to teachers, coaches, and staff members, anyone who might have a clue. She interviewed older alumni and even local philanthropists. Each interview was a dead end. No one knew anything. The Northwood Angel was a ghost. Meanwhile, far from the whirlwind of Sarah's investigation, Mr. Harrison continued his simple, methodical life. His small apartment was sparse, furnished with only the essentials. Every evening, after a long day at the school, he would sit at his small kitchen table, not to rest, but to meticulously go over his finances. He'd pack a simple lunch instead of buying one. He'd mend his own clothes instead of replacing them. He walked to work, rain or shine. Every dollar saved, every penny accounted for, was carefully set aside. It wasn't about hoarding wealth. It was about fulfilling a purpose for greater than his own comfort. This was his courage. The choice to live with less so that others could have more. He found profound joy not in what he had, but in what he could give. Weeks turned into a month, and Sarah's investigation had stalled. Every lead evaporated, every theory fell apart. She felt dejected, sitting alone in the now empty library, staring at her notebook filled with crossed-out names and dead-end questions. She was ready to give up, to accept that the Northwood Angel would forever remain a mystery. As she packed her bag, her gaze fell upon the lost and found box near the librarian's desk. Just then, she saw Mr. Harrison quietly approaching. He placed a small, worn-out, leather-bound notebook inside the box before turning to leave, his footsteps silent as always. Curiosity piqued, Sarah hesitated for a moment. It felt wrong to pry, but a powerful intuition told her she had to look. She walked over to the box and gently lifted the old notebook. It felt heavy with history. She opened it, and her breath caught in her throat. The pages were filled with neat, careful handwriting. It wasn't a diary or a collection of thoughts. It was a ledger. Page after page listed names, dates, and amounts. She saw Liam's name, followed by the exact amount of his tuition scholarship. But there were other names, dozens of them, stretching back years. A student who needed money for textbooks. Another who couldn't afford a band trip. A girl who needed a new laptop after hers broke. Each entry was a quiet act of immense generosity. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as the truth washed over her. The humble school janitor, the man no one ever really noticed, was the Northwood Angel. He had been quietly funding the dreams of students for years, using his modest salary, sacrificing his own comfort for their future. It was the most beautiful, powerful secret she had ever discovered. A wave of emotion, a mixture of awe and profound respect, overwhelmed her. She carefully closed the notebook, her hands trembling, and placed it back in the box. The next day, Sarah walked through the school with a new perspective. She saw Mr. Harrison mopping the hallway, and their eyes met for a brief second. She gave him a small, knowing smile filled with gratitude. He simply nodded back, a flicker of understanding in his kind eyes. Sarah knew she couldn't expose him. To reveal his identity would be to betray the very essence of his humility, to tarnish the purity of his actions. His gift wasn't about recognition, it was about kindness. Instead, she decided to honor him in a different way. She went to the student council, not with the story of Mr. Harrison, but with an idea. Inspired by an act of anonymous kindness, she proposed starting a pay-it-forward fund. A system where students could help other students in small ways. It could be buying a coffee for someone having a bad day, donating old textbooks, or contributing a few dollars to a fund for students in need. The idea caught on instantly. The story of the Northwood Angel had already planted a seed of generosity in the school's heart. Sarah's initiative was the water it needed to grow. Soon, the hallways were filled with a different kind of energy. Students were leaving anonymous notes of encouragement on lockers. A community pantry for snacks and school supplies appeared in the student lounge. The culture of stress and competition began to slowly transform into one of support and community. From a distance, pushing his cleaning cart down the corridor, Mr. Harrison would watch these small acts of kindness unfold. He saw a senior tutoring a freshman for free. He saw a group of students pooling their money to help a classmate replace a broken instrument. And a quiet, contented smile would spread across his face. His secret was safe, but his legacy was visible everywhere. He had never sought the spotlight, but his quiet courage had ignited 1,000 smaller lights in its wake. True generosity, he knew, isn't about being seen. It's about inspiring a chain reaction of kindness that continues long after the initial act is forgotten. And in the bustling halls of Northwood High, a janitor's humble heart had created a legacy that would change countless lives, one small, kind act at a time. Thanks for watching. And if this story touched you, consider sharing it to spread the message. See you next time.